It's Madam Web time. The first pull is Eliath, and I wanted the variant, and then the second pull I get Madam Web, which is my best Spotlight Cash pull in months, but I now have to find a deck I like, and the traditional move stuff is just not for me. And honestly, I didn't like the decks and thought I wasn't going to like the card. But then I found a Madam Web deck that I really clicked with.
I'm looking for a mind at work. I'm looking for a mind at work. I'm looking for a mind at work. Whoa, 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 work.
I started out with this Cerebro deck. It was fun, right? Madam Web moves multiple man and he can fill pretty much every location. But I had too many games that ended up like this, and I was just not a fan of Cerebro. And I tried other more traditional lists, but I often felt like I was just missing a key component in Hercules, him being one of like the 8 cards I don't own. And I feel like most people already covered those lists, but then I found a list I truly loved. After trying about maybe 10, 12 different lists, I found Zodrex Snaps list, and I love it. It's a small cost list with a lot of move elements incorporated. So, how to play list? Well, you have the traditional move package with Ghost Spider, Iron Fist, Dagger, and Vulture. All these cards together can get you big power. I like playing out Vulture early game and Dagger late game if you get to pick. But with all of those cards, we have Madam Web, which just synergizes perfectly. You can Ghost Spider or Iron Fist your move cards into the Madam Web lane and then move them out for the second proc for free. And then likely you're going to want to move them to the same lane that your activator was played, and you can beast them all up and just start again. And that's a big core of the deck. But a more reliable way to get power in this deck is with Thena, who I love, and if you've watched the last couple of videos, you know I think she's great. And Kitty Pryde is almost always packaged with Thena just for the easy procs, especially in a list where you run out of cards fast. Then Kate also pairs well with her, but Kate is also just a really good utility card that has the grapple arrow, which can proc either Vulture or Dagger. And then you have Goose. Goose is one of the most underrated cards right now. You can't play big cards from Arishem or Wiccan in this lane, and it's really hard to contest a Vulture or a Dagger in a Goose lane outside of something like Shadow King. To also counter these big cards, we have US Agent, who doesn't hit any cards in this deck, which is really nice. And he also has nice synergy with Madam Web. You can play him on Madam Web and then move him off when your opponent plays a good target for the US Agent. Lastly, we have Havoc, which I love as a card in general and just fits into the list perfectly. In the later turns on this list, a lot of the times I don't use all of my energy, so Havoc is perfect to lay down turn 4 or 5, getting him to 8 or 12 power. Real quick, substitutions for this deck. I'm guessing if you don't have any of the cards, it's like Kate Bishop, Havoc, Thena, or US Agent. And I'd say you can just put in some general good 2-drops in here for him, whether it's Angela, whether it's Craven, or even if you want to get spicy and add in like a Craven Silk combo, I'd be okay with it. And I'm obsessed with this list. So I start my Conquest grind this season, and here's my first game. And we play Kitty Pryde, Superflow pops up the next turn, and my opponent's out of there. Like, I guess he also was playing Move, but he just figured it was chalked. But on to the first real game. We got a Dakin Gamer. Oh my god, love to see it. And nah, I'm kidding. It's an Arishem deck if you can't tell by the borders. Luke's Bar is great for us, and he is able to Jubilee on it, and we should be able to get bigger than the Agent Coulson. And when we move our Vulture over there, we're going to be able to bounce back our Ghost Spider, which is huge. And Los Diablos base blows it up, so that plan is gone. But bless up, next turn we draw Madam Web. We Ghost Spider our Vulture into the Madam Web lane, and the next turn we can move him to the throne and then punch over our dagger back to the Madam Web lane. And our final turn is pretty much just us moving dagger, and hopefully he doesn't Shang-Chi us. But they do Shang-Chi, and they just miss. So I guess it's a skill diff? And speaking of skill diff, next game we get Sinister London, where we both set up Thena. And I feel good. I got my goose in hand, and he won't be able to play his big Airsham cards. But Project Pegasus gives us both a lot of energy, and we get our goose Eliath. And I know my profile picture is Eliath, but just let me show off how good Goose is. Next game is against my man of culture, Kujo Jotaro. I'm more of a Joseph man myself, but we are actually able to get Goose out this game, and Sakar pulls my dagger. So that's a dead card unless I pull Beast. But as they do Venom stuff, we pull our Vulture with our Grapple Arrow, and then pull it back with our Ghost Spider. The next turn he Zola's, which is crazy to me, and I get Beast to pick all my cards up, and I send out an Acid Arrow. So the final turn looks a little something like this. Yeah, so pretty nice. And the next game, we get that same early Beast value and play 3-card pickup, and they get their Madam Web this game. We established that strong mid, and Wakanda is looking good, but they Green Goblin into Acid Arrow, so I'm kind of in hell over on Superflow. Only if I had 2 Beasts. And of course, the last turn, that's when we draw Madam Web. But we just throw down Kitty Pryde and Vulture and hope for the best. And yeah, he plays Cannonball and he can't get it done because of Lake Hellas. And he yoinks away his Cannonball anyways. So we end up taking the win. And one thing I've learned from playing these move decks is how location dependent these decks are. I get Madam Web down on Cloning Vats, so I'm able to get another Madam Web down on Vault. And I'm ready to ping pong my Vulture back and forth, and I get hit with Galactus. And yeah, it's like, how do move cards? Now, going into the last game, I get their Madam Web from Daily Bugle, and we're able to set both of them up. The next turn, we get a big dagger, and we're able to get Thena going. Madam Web moves dagger to the other web, and the other web in return moves Thena, which is huge because Beast doesn't end up scooping Thena up. And with Kate, we have a full hand going into the final turn, and we drop most of our hand for this final turn fiasco. So yeah, I think this deck is super cool. I'm a huge fan, and hopefully you like the deck as well. But I'd appreciate it if you enjoyed the video, if you liked, commented, and subbed. It goes a long way in supporting me and getting more people to watch the vid via the YouTube algorithm. But thanks again, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!